Hello, and welcome back, you Diablo 4 aficionados. I assume you are here not because you saw Last Epoch and thought it actually looked like a good game. No, that couldn't be it. You are probably here for a friend, or wanted to hear more about Last Epoch to confirm your suspicions that there is no way any part of this game could possibly be any better than the holy grail of a game we affectionately call Diablo 4. Or maybe you lost a bet. I really don't care. Whatever your excuse may be, I know this is a big step for you. It can be scary when you're about to play a game other than Diablo 4, but don't worry. Just like how Blizzard really dumbed down a lot of parts of the action RPG genre, I'm here to dumb down the aspects of Last Epoch for you. Let's start off by explaining the different game modes. First, we have softcore and hardcore, a term I'm sure you're all familiar with from Diablo 4. But in this game, if your hardcore character dies, it is actually sent to the softcore realm, with all the items equipped to itself and in its inventory, but it will not bring over items in your hardcore stash. The other option you have when creating your character is selecting a legacy or cycle character. Okay, I can feel your Diablo 4 eyes glazing over with all these options already. But no, the word cycle means season in Last Epoch, and legacy means eternal realm. Everything new in Cycle 1 of Last Epoch will also be available on the Legacy servers. The only difference is Cycle 1 will start out with a fresh economy. So if you are new to the game and don't really have multiple max level characters and want an even playing field to, don't freak out now, top those ladder leaderboards. Yes, they have ladder leaderboards already in the game. Then I highly suggest starting out with a new Cycle 1 character. Okay, let's get into the actual game. I know you probably hate hearing this. I would suggest you play what you think may be the most fun. Now that doesn't mean reinstall Diablo 4 to make your 3rd Blizzard Sorcerer or 4th Twisting Blades Rogue. Come on now, you gotta save some character slots for next season. And if you've already looked up a meta guide to see what may be the best spec to go in 1.0, well, I have some bad news for you. They just released the 1.0 patch notes, highlighting a lot of major improvements to the game, including a complete graphical overhaul. And these graphics and animation changes coming 1.0 are freaking massive. It's even larger than the graphical improvements from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2. Anyway, along with all the improvements to the game, they also nerfed some extremely overpowered specs. So if you saw some guide saying this is the best spec to go, it's probably going to be changing in the next week. So again, just kind of go what you think might be the most fun. In Last Epoch, every class has a viable endgame build, and especially at the start of the game, where you can respec your passive and multiple skill tree options. Yes, they have more than one skill tree in the game. They actually have a skill tree for every skill in the game, and I strongly suggest you level up and find skills you think are fun. Here's a quick example of me placing a point into one of the nodes of Lightning Blast on the mage. The first point turned this ability into Chain Lightning, and each point I placed into this node added an additional bounce to the Chain Lightning effect. And for you melee players out there, here's an example of a few points placed into Last Epoch's version of Whirlwind, an ability you get at level 2. Here it is at its starting form, without any points into the ability tree. You can see my mana draining a bit before completely running out. But after placing a few points into the few nodes over here, I was able to completely negate the mana cost. And these are just 2 examples of many options you can choose from and combine in these skill trees. Now onto my next beginner tip, masteries. Each class has 3 mastery options. Alright, try to follow me here. A mastery is like a class with their own abilities and skills, while also keeping all the abilities and skills of the base class. So in Diablo terms, let's say we have a base class of a rogue from Diablo 4, but then you select the Javazon mastery. You then gain access to all the Javelin abilities from Diablo 2, while also being able to use all your Diablo 4 rogue abilities. Or instead, you could select Demon Hunter Mastery, and then you get access to all the Demon Hunter abilities from Diablo 3, instead of the Javelin skills from Diablo 2. But here is where my first and only warning comes in. When you select your Mastery, which happens later into the game's story, you can't go back. It is the only permanent choice in your character progression in the game. This could be changed later on, but for now, it's permanent. This is where I would suggest possibly looking up some information on different masteries before you select your own. But hey, I know we're Diablo 4 players, and we know what we're doing in all situations, and don't need no stupid guide to tell us how to play a game. Am I right? This next tip may upset some of you, but there is a loot filter. Now don't go for your pitchforks just yet. Let me show you how easy it is to create a loot filter where you only see yellow items. First, go to your settings, or hit Shift F. Select Create New Filter. Name your filter. Then add a rule. Under Visibility, select Hide. Then add Condition. Rarity, Normal, and Magic. Now you're all set. You should only see yellow items or better. And before you know it, you can go back to looking through your new inventory filled with yellow items. And this should feel like home for you Diablo 4 connoisseurs. Of course, later on you can make it so you can only see uniques and legendary items, but I'll leave that up to you. And I know this whole thing may be a bit too complicated for some of you, and if that's the case, you can always copy and paste in a loot filter you find online. Or even better, just don't use one, and go back to what you love most, spending more time looking at loot than playing the actual game. Before I go over some more starter tips, here's a bonus tip. I want to highlight a unique aspect in Last Epoch's multiplayer with its resonance system. In many ARPGs, including Diablo 3, I am unsure about Diablo 4 as its trade system has been disabled every time I try to play the game. We can trade items with friends who were in our party when the item dropped. This is also true for Last Epoch, but they take it a step further with the resonance system. This system lets you gain experience with other players who you are grouped with. When you gain enough experience, a token drops with your friend's name on it. This item can be used on a piece of gear to send to your friend, even when they are offline or not currently grouped up with you. This next tip is about crafting. As you pick up items in the game, you will see a lot of these little shards, glyphs, and runes. These are used for crafting. You can click this button to vacuum all the items up to use for later. Now don't feel you need to hoard these, because at each vendor in the game you will see a special item called Runes of Shattering. Buy these up, and here is why. If you add a fire damage shard to your sword and find a better sword later on and are like, crap, I shouldn't have used that cool fire damage shard on that garbage sword, you can shatter your old fire sword, giving you back the fire shard to use on your new sword. And you can keep repeating that process every time you find an upgrade. Before I continue with crafting, another bonus tip is that there's a full offline mode for this game. So if you have bad connection or have another reason for playing offline, you can do so. The second tip on crafting is that there's a special upgrade rune called Runes of Ascendance, which will upgrade an item of your choice into a unique of that item type. This is so much better than using the gambling vendor in the game, which requires you to use your gold. The gambler is what I would recommend new players and early game players completely avoid. Gold is a very valuable resource in the game. It can be used to upgrade your loot rewards in some endgame activities, and also to buy items from the in-game auction house, if you are the merchant faction that is. More on that later. Like I said before, I want to make this as simple as possible for you Diablo 4 loyalists, and the crafting system does have a lot to it, but I'm not going to go into all the aspects in this video. But if you somehow want to know more before I make my own guide on crafting, I'm going to provide you with a link to Aaron from the Action RPG YouTube page on crafting. He is a creator in the Last Epoch space, with maybe a little bit more knowledge than someone who only has a most fun level 5 tier list video. Look, my level 10 tier list video may be out very soon, possibly even tomorrow. When it comes to the campaign, if this is your first run through, I do suggest you try to enjoy it. There's no full skip for Last Epoch's campaign yet, but there are some partial ones. And who knows, by Cycle 2 they may even have a full skip. So experience it now, because this may be your last chance. Unless you are some kind of Diablo 4 Giga Chad, where you replay the campaign every season, just for fun. Also note that some side quests in the game give passive skill points once completed. Yes, I know it's faster than doing 20 dungeons, collecting 15 statues and 5 side quests to get 1 zone's paragon points that provide 5 agility each, but if you want to scratch that itch, you just need to do 1 short side quest and you get a passive skill point. You can't acquire more than 15 passive skill points from side quests, so by the time you're done with the campaign, there's a chance you may have already passively hit cap. For those Diablo 2 players who are missing charms, good news for you, they have those in this game. They are called idols. These are items you keep in a dedicated section in your inventory that provides you with a passive buff. For my last tip, for those starting Last Epoch in 1.0, they are adding a faction system that revolves around item acquisition. No, these aren't guilds like in Diablo 4. You know, that system that they just half-assed and had no updates since the launch of the game? This is different than that. There will be 2 factions. The first is the Merchants Guild, which grants the ability to trade items with others face-to-face or through the auction house system. The second faction is the Circle of Fortune. This is great for those who don't want to trade and find items yourself. This faction provides massive buffs to drop rates, crafting, and the ability to target farm. I am leaning more towards the Circle of Fortune, as I want to just get in and blast, and not spend too much time setting up trades and saving all the items I find that may be good for other classes. However, there are some major benefits to the Merchants Guild, such as the ability to purchase the exact item you're looking for with gold. But I have some concerns, which brings me to my final section. This section is, well, my concerns, and I really only have two major ones. First off, unlike our precious Diablo 4, who has the backing of a multi-billion-dollar company that has extensive experience launching new multiplayer games on servers with absolutely no issues, there just may be a chance this small indie company may run into some hiccups. From all the droves of people trying to play their game on the 21st, you know, just to see for a friend how good the game is, there's a chance we won't be able to jump in on day one. So if you're planning to take time off for this, I feel a safe bet for you would be to take off the following day, on the 22nd, which should give them enough time to sort out day one launch problems. And now for my second and last concern, which revolves around the Merchants faction. I know all of you Diablo 4 players out there are used to new systems launching flawlessly, and without any way to exploit these new systems. But hear me out, what if an item duplication method was found, and they need a locked trading for a day, or longer? Now, how long and often has trade been locked in Diablo 4? Again, they are a multi-billion-dollar company. So just imagine not being able to use all the perks you had from the Merchants Guild for as long as that. Which is why for at least my first character in 1.0, I'll be starting with the Circle of Fortune faction. Last Epoch seems like it's going to be quite a fun game for many people. And yes, even you Diablo 4 enjoyers, there's also a lot to look forward to after 1.0. They are going to be expanding the story with a few more chapters, even more endgame activities, including Uber bosses, new uniques, legendaries, and set items, new cycle features, new classes and masteries, and so much more. Oh yeah, and all those additions will be added for free, and we won't need to buy them in a DLC or expansion. That's it for this video. See you all next time. Bye.